And our top story tonight at 6, a local priest says he did not do it. Father Samuel Vinay says he's innocent of sexual abuse accusations.
The retired priest tells News 4 in a television interview that he plans to fight to protect his reputation. News 4's Luke Moretti has more in this special report.
I never thought anybody would even think of making such an accusation.
What was your initial reaction when they told you about these accusations?
I was devastated.
Father Samuel Vinay is among dozens of priests in the Catholic Diocese of Buffalo publicly accused of sexual abuse.
Anybody who knows me knows it's an impossibility.
As a result of Bishop Richard Malone's recent determination that the allegations have been substantiated, the 76-year-old Vinay, who's been retired for about a decade, says he felt compelled to go public.
You basically want to fight this.
Yes. I didn't do it. Why should I go ahead and say I did?
The allegations against Vinay stem back about 4 decades. He sought out legal counsel from Buffalo area attorney Michael Taheri.
We aren't challenging the accuser. We're just saying Father Vinay didn't do it.
Taheri, who's handling Vinay's case for free, thinks the diocesan proceedings are unfair.
This isn't a search for the truth. This isn't a search for justice. This is a proceeding with no constitutional or due process foundational pieces that exist to the accused or the accuser.
For one, Taheri says Vinay made 2 written requests to the diocese for copies of the complaint, but never received them.
So we are left in the dark as to who said what, when, where, and how.
The priest had sent the letters asking for copies of the complaint. Never received any copies.
Well, as the rules require, there is no right for the individual to have a copy of the complaint. It's spelled out specifically in the resource booklets that are provided to each diocese. But the truth is, we would give that to them if this is something that was really making it difficult for them to prepare a presentation that they wanted to make.
Diocesan lawyer Terry Connors says Vinay was initially told at length about the accusation in person and was later reached by phone in response to his written request. Connors says he tried contacting Vinay's attorney, Michael Taheri, in an effort to share information about the complaint. But that was after the review board made recommendations and after the bishop determined the allegation against Vinay was substantiated.
If they contact a canon lawyer or if they contact a regular lawyer, very often those lawyers will call us and we will supplement that information and give them what they need to know at this juncture, even though the rules are that they're not entitled to that information. They're not entitled to a copy of the charges. They're not entitled in some instances to even know they're under investigation. But our diocese does it differently.
Michael Riddy is a canon lawyer who's represented more than 250 priests accused of sexual misconduct.
I don't have a case in recent memory where I have not been allowed to, at the very least, review the allegation with the priest prior to any type of an interview or prior to any type of response to the review board.
Taheri argues that seeing the complaint in writing rather than relying on what Vinay was told would have been helpful.
He's never had a chance to come before the board that decides whether the charges should be sustained without having input from him. It's totally preposterous.
Why not bring him in and say, we need to talk to this guy. Let's sit him down and ask him some questions here before we make this decision.
The review board didn't think it was necessary to make the threshold determination in this case that there was credibility to the allegations. And there was a recommendation from the investigator as well.
According to Taheri, Vinay was interviewed by an investigator for the diocese who was provided with defense materials for the review board to consider. They include the results of a polygraph test that Vinay passed, a urological evaluation that looked at the possibility of erectile dysfunction, among other issues, and a sex offender evaluation that found Vinay to be, quote, credible in his denial of the alleged sexual contacts. Connors says the framework for investigating sex abuse among the clergy is dictated by the church's charter, a canon law proceeding done by a private religious organization, and not subject to state or federal constitutional principles.
We are talking about a preliminary stage, an accusatory stage. Once there's a trial, there are rights that attach for the benefit of the accused priest that are very comparable to the rights of the Constitution that are for individuals charged.
Now that the preliminary investigation is over, Vinay's case moves to Rome. What's known as the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith will decide what's next. Connor says that could include a trial or sanctions. There's also an appeal process.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray.
In the meantime, Vinay's supporters are prayerful that the man they know as Father Sam will eventually be cleared.
Aren't we innocent until proven guilty? And has he really been proven guilty? We haven't seen anything that proves that.
Vinay remains on administrative leave. Until recently, he had been residing at St. Stephen's on Grand Island, but was moved by the diocese to another location.
Fundamentally, if a person is accused, they should have an opportunity to see the charge, defend the charge, and at least testify on their own behalf and deny it in front of this review board, and then let the review board ask questions and say, these are our concerns.
How do you protect the priest's reputation, yet give voice to the people who have not been able to voice their complaints? It's a very delicate balance.
October marks 40 years that Vinay has been a priest. He says the calling came when he was in the 2nd grade, making his first communion.
At the end of the day, you believe that you will be exonerated and that you'll be able to maintain and keep the reputation that you had.
Well, I'm sure I'll never keep the reputation, because once the reputation is shot, that's it. There's always going to be doubt.
Vinay's lawyer, Michael Taheri, says he's exploring a couple of options. One involves asking the bishop to reinstate Vinay, and 2, getting his client, an expert in canon law, to contest the accusations in Rome, where the case now moves for a final determination.
Luke Moretti has more on this developing story tonight. Luke?
Yeah, Don and Jackie, the News 4 Investigates team has spent weeks researching the church's own procedures. We've discovered some conflicts between church precepts and how the Buffalo Diocese actually handles sex abuse allegations involving priests.
Frankly, they are so unfair and violate simple principles of due process.
Attorney Michael Taheri is talking about the process and procedures used by the Buffalo Catholic Diocese in dealing with decades-old sex abuse allegations. Taheri represents Father Samuel Vinay, who is among dozens of Buffalo area priests publicly accused.
Father Sam and I want to make it better for future priests.
Holy Mary, Mother of God.
Vinay remains on administrative leave following a preliminary investigation into a decades-old sex abuse claim, an accusation he vehemently denies. In June, Bishop Richard Malone issued a press release stating that the allegation against the 76-year-old priest was substantiated. Vinay's attorney argues that such a public pronouncement by the bishop is premature and potentially prejudices the process.
It creates this idea that the priest is guilty before there's been a formal trial in Rome, and that just shouldn't be the case.
Attorney Terry Connor serves as legal counsel for the Buffalo Diocese. During an interview with News 4 last month, we asked him about the process of dealing with accused priests.
There's no perfect process when you deal with these issues. They are terrible flashpoint issues. You're talking about an allegation of abuse of a child, and it's very difficult.
But Mike Taheri believes the process is unfair, and he's now appealing to a higher power, right to the Pope and his chief advisor.
Pope Francis has been a wonderful, just, compassionate leader of the Catholic flock.
Taheri has fired off a letter and exhibits detailing what he calls flaws in the procedures. The packet of materials is addressed to Cardinal Sean O'Malley, Archbishop of Boston, who serves as president of the Pontifical Commission for the Protection of Minors.
It's absolutely the worst procedure I've seen in 30 years as a lawyer.
Among the issues Taheri cites in the correspondence, the accuser does not provide a sworn or notarized statement as to the truth of the allegation.
There's no requirement on the diocese's part that it be notarized or even sworn to.
Should it be? Or?
Well, under the rules, they don't require it to be a sworn complaint.
Maybe not in the Buffalo Diocese, but as News 4 Investigates discovered, according to canon law processes outlined in this handbook, as a rule, the complaint should be made in writing, signed by the complainant, dated, and then notarized. We brought that to the attention of diocesan attorney Terry Connors.
I guess, according to the rules, it would be helpful if it were to be notarized. We don't require it to be notarized.
The fact that they don't do it, I think, really looks poorly on the present process that's in use by the Buffalo Diocese. There's no reason why, before that priest is placed on leave and that name is released to the public, that there shouldn't be an accusation that's been formally acknowledged.
There's also a question about whether the Buffalo Diocese should provide canonical counsel for priests under internal investigation.
We do say to the individuals that they should consult canon lawyers, or they have a right to consult civil lawyers at all.
News 4 Investigates found that the Church's canon law handbook states that if the cleric is invited to participate in the preliminary investigation, it is strongly urged that he be provided the assistance of canonical counsel.
I would welcome canonical counsel assisting us in this matter. I think it would be a great testament to improving the fairness of the process.
Michael Ritty, an Albany area canon law expert who's represented more than 250 priests, tells News 4 Investigates that each diocese has a different approach.
Some dioceses will pay for all services, some will pay for some, and others will pay nothing toward any counsel.
There's another issue. When is the right time to release the name of the priest being accused?
Bishop Malone has to know, though, that once that name goes out there, most people are going to think the priest did it.
Well, they shouldn't think that, because it's stated clear as a bell that it's an allegation that has been made and has only been the subject of a rudimentary preliminary investigation.
Connors argues that suspending a priest during the preliminary investigation leaves churchgoers wondering what happened.
They're placed on administrative leave. There's no reason for any decision or Bishop Malone to release a comment that the charges have been substantiated. He's placed on administrative leave. If the case is going to go to Rome, let it go to Rome. We don't need to re-invite or shall I say, put that information back into community.
Taheri's concerns are backed by the Church's canon law, which states that care must be taken so that the good name of anyone is not endangered from this investigation.
You have a bishop like Bishop Malone, who I've seen personally agonize over these decisions. I have seen him worry and wonder about whether he's doing the right thing, to protect the priest or to protect the children. Where does the balance lie? How do you make that decision? It's extremely difficult.
Now, attorney Terry Connors tells News 4 that Bishop Richard Malone has a great deal of discretion when it comes to enforcing the church's charter. And we requested a sit-down interview with the bishop, but a spokesman telling us that he's not available at this point. Luke Moretti, News 4.